Hi, my name is Jessica Tice, and I am doing a project for Edu580 with Mrs. Crystal Showalter. And the purpose of this project was to identify one student that is culturally and linguistically diverse, and then to modify one of Mrs. Showalter's lessons to help meet his needs. So Mrs. Showalter currently teaches 6th, 7th, and 8th grade resource language arts at Royal Spring Middle School here in Scott County. The student that we are speaking of is a male. The lesson focuses on using dialogue in writing and punctuating dialogue correctly. Students were given a paragraph containing dialogue from different speakers. Then they were rewriting the paragraph with appropriate rules for dialogue. So based on some of my readings from this course, I have decided there were some modifications that might help Mrs. Showalter to better reach her CLD student. One of those things was based on his access scores, which she has already reviewed, show that he is scoring lower in reading comprehension and is scoring higher in speaking. So I tried to do some things that would help build up his speech that he's already doing pretty well with, and then help with that reading comprehension. The students in this lesson were supposed to rewrite the paragraph with appropriate rules. So one modification that I had mentioned was that the teacher first needs to read the paragraph and make sure that she's enunciating the spoken parts. This is called guarded vocabulary. So Mrs. Showalter, in the future, you could speak slowly and really enunciate on those speaking parts. If she's not available to do this, she could always record herself reading the paragraph, and then he could listen to it on the computer. And if needed, you could have the paragraph on the screen for him to look at while he's listening to it. Visuals are another great resource that could be used for this student. Maybe making a comic strip and showing the dialogue being used between different speakers. Later on, you suggested that he needs to highlight the spoken words in each sentence. Probably want to look through those and make sure that the paragraph is very student-friendly and using language that's more familiar to him. It would also be good to have him read the paragraph to you first, and that way you can correct if there's any confusion in his reading comprehension of the paragraph, and if necessary you can assist. Another part of this lesson that I thought would benefit this male student is he could use air quotations or hand signals to show where the spoken parts are in the paragraph, and you could always correct him if necessary. When adding the punctuation to this lesson, using the hand signals again to show stopping at the end of a sentence, or maybe a hand signal like this to show that it's a question, you're asking something. And after he's done that, while he's reading it aloud to you, he could then go back and add in the correct punctuation. In the end, you suggested that he needs to self-assess his own work. Based on the sheltered English approach, it would probably be best to have him pair in a cooperative group, maybe with a partner or a few partners. If he's paired with a more capable partner, they could always go back and assess his response. Some other things that I've mentioned to Mrs. Showalter about ways that she could modify this lesson would be to use technology when she can. Things like using the smartboard to blow up the paragraph, or having it on the screen on the computer while he listens to it. She could also make comic strips for him to view the spoken dialogue coming from different characters. As far as having modifications for his home language, she could use terms that were more student-friendly and that were more familiar to him. Mrs. Showalter felt like it was not necessary right now to send home extension activities, but in the future, if she decides to, she can send it in his home language, which is Spanish, or she could modify by letting the student listen to his parents or family members and then write down their spoken dialogue.
Which I think is a great idea for all the kids.
And that is what we have decided to talk about for my Edu580 project. Thank you.
Thank you.